So let's workshop the gel plate. The gelatin plate is actually a monoprinting tool. Monoprinting has been around for hundreds of years. It's just a printmaking technique that creates a single image from the plate. Every pull is different. Now, I use the 𝐿𝐼𝐼𝐍𝐼𝐷 gel plates because it's the first one that I used years ago, about 10 years ago, when they first came out introducing this. And I've loved it. I found no reason to necessarily make mine or try another company. Not that any of those would not be options. If you already have a different plate or you've made yours, the techniques that I'm going to be sharing and the information that I'm going to be sharing is the same. I'm on the 𝐨𝐼𝐼𝐷 creative team, and so I love this product, and I really like to push out into the community the techniques and the ease that you can use with the gel plate in so many techniques. So today we're just going to simply deal with what are the various size plates and how are they commonly used, and are there any other tools that are needed to create a gel print. There are a number of plates. I'm showing you the ones that I have and how I use them. I have this little round plate, which is about a 4-inch round. And a lot of times the smaller plates I use as stamps. I like the fact that it'll leave me an impression that's going to be round. And I can normally put some sort of imagery on this, be it just texture or if it's a stencil. And then I can either lay the paper on top or I can lay it upside down and press it and then remove and an image is there. Now, in each of these segments of Workshop This, we will tackle various aspects of gel printing, as I've said before, art journaling, mixed media, collage, mark making. I'll have another video in which I will show how I use these plates in action. But today, let's just look at the plates so that when you go to purchase a plate, you'll have an idea of exactly what that plate is, the size, and what I do with it. This is the 3x5. You can see my plates get a lot of use. I've had this one for many years. And this I also use as a stamp. So sometimes I'll use the smaller plate to put extra paint on if I'm using a brush or if I'm using my brayer and I just want to have a place to put extra paint to then roll on. If I'm putting multiple colors on my plate, I'll use the plates as that. And I will also use this again as a small square or rectangle to create a stamp. And I will be showing that in future Workshop This. Love this. This one gets a lot of use. I like this. And I think that when you go to get a plate, it's nice to get one small one and then one, I always say get the standard size, which I'll show you, and then one small one. This is the 6x6 square. I love this size too. You can see it already has a nice frame so that if you wanted to put this and use it on a larger sheet of paper so that you had white all around the sides and your imagery could be right in the middle, it makes a nice frame to for a final piece of art. But also you can work and put the plate down multiple times on a single sheet of paper and really build up in something I call my patchwork technique. And I will be showing all these in the future. But the 6x6 is a nice plate. Then I'd say that this is a good standard plate. This is the 8x10. This one is, I would say, your first go-to size because it will fit 8.5 by 11 paper. So most of the size papers that you'd be able to get easily, this plate will accommodate. It's a large enough surface for you to be able to get a lot of information down with paints and colors and stencils, but not so much that it's hard to manage the design that you're creating for your art. So I always say 8x10 is the way to go. If you're going to get one plate, get this plate. If you're going to get a secondary plate, then either go with the 6x6 or even one of the smaller ones like this. Any of these, any of the three of these along with an 8 by 10 would be perfect, and you'd be able to do a load of things, and most of the basic techniques that I show and the variety that I get in jelly printing can be done with these. Now also, because I also like to work a little larger, this 9 by 12 is also ideal. This would be, you could do this in substitution to the 8 by 10. So if you want just a slightly larger surface, or sometimes a lot of my, those of you who are in the community, they're in Europe or Australia, New Zealand, your size papers are different. And sometimes they're a little longer than the 8.5 by 10 and sometimes narrower. And it could be frustrating for most of your paper to hang off the plate. So in that case, you might want to check your standard paper sizes and go with the 9 by 12 instead of the 8 by 10. Just another way of thinking about it, but there's a little bit more surface on this one. You can see comparatively where the two plates end. So, you know, you have a few more inches here at the top. The width is about the same, just a little bit wider here, another inch on this side. So if you wanted to kind of see how these line up, you're going to get a little bit more here and on the sides. And it does make a difference when you're working with a larger paper. If you like to work with, if your standard use are larger size papers, then yeah, you might want to just go with the 9 by 12 in substitution. But it's not necessary to get both. I wouldn't, you know, and say until you actually are jelly printing a lot, or maybe you already have the 8 by 10, you've been using it a lot and you didn't know about the 9 by 12 or really wasn't sure what the differences would be, then as opposed to getting another 8 by 10, if you're looking to get a new plate, then get the 9 by 12. And we'll be ultimately working with these, as I've said, so you'll get the opportunity over the course of this workshops, this series, to really see how they all operate. So this is a 16 by 20. I haven't even used this plate yet. I'm looking forward to using it. I have some really large scale projects that I want to work on, but I wouldn't recommend starting off with this plate. It would really be too much to handle. The more paint, your sheets of paper have to be a lot larger. When you're dealing with composition, it can just kind of be a mind bender if you're not used to mono printing or printing at all, or even doing the jelly plate. Just wanted to show you, so when you looked, and if you saw this plate, what is that? You know, well, this is a very big plate, and it's wonderful for those of you who are printmakers, you're used to mono printing, and you've used gelatin plates. Then this would be a plate for a more advanced printer, I would say. But they do exist. So you know, the thing I like about the Gelli Arts product is that it really spans the gamut for people at all different levels of jelly printing and with all different ideas about what they want to see happen in this technique. The last thing that I want to share are the Brayers. So Gelli Arts has a Brayer that works wonderfully. Also speedball. So if you already have a speedball Brayer, or you can get your hands on these sort of things easily by going to your craft store, any rubber Brayer. But you're going to find that the rubber on the Brayers are different. So you might want to play around. Some of them are softer, some of them are harder. And that's just a personal choice as you begin to work. But whatever you start off with, you're going to be able to roll out a nice, even layer of paint on the plate, and that is going to be just fine. And the only other thing I would suggest are paint brushes. You can get a few different sizes, because I will show in the future the best practices for rolling using your Brayer to get nice layers, and the different amount of paint on the plate, what that'll create, and also using the paint brushes. But you can literally put paint onto the plate and pull brush strokes that are not brayered out. And oftentimes people don't think of that because they just think, oh, it's a brayer. But no, you can use paint brushes on the jelly plate and get a lot of texture in your work. So those are the only thing that you need in order to start jelly plate printing, aside from, of course, your papers and your paints. And we'll be talking about those in upcoming workshops. So I hope that helped, and we'll be back next week for another workshop this. And remember, if you have questions across any of the mixed media topics, anything you've seen me do, or any questions you may have in general, please put it beneath the video. And as I move forward, I will actually answer the questions that are brought to me, and I will also acknowledge who actually brought that question to me. So until next time, see you soon. Happy creating.